Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you guys had a good first couple days of the NBA season. We had a little two-gamer tonight. My players are already in foul trouble, so that's fun. But yeah, if you don't know who I am, my name is Shook. I play NBA, NFL, all DFS. All these videos that get posted to a subreddit, I'll have that linked down below. And if you're looking for more in-depth content, I'll have my Discord link down below. Sportsbook plays, all that good stuff, private videos, core plays. You get the point. And then if you ever need to get a hold of me privately, you can get a hold of me on X right there. All right, let's go over my lineup from yesterday. I liked my lineup. I think I made one small mistake though, and that was playing Jalen Tyson at his ownership. He came in a lot higher owned than he was projected for, so I definitely have regrets there, but I'm pretty happy with the rest of it. I guess I wish I should have got to Wemby, but I think that's like in hindsight, right? Um, but I like the rest of it. So like the core did really good. The core was VJ Edgecombe, Zion Williamson, PJ Washington, and at least one of Giannis Antetokounmpo, Cade Cunningham. So the core did great. Donovan Mitchell had 10 fantasy points at half, but luckily he turned it on in the second half in a big way. 36 and a half fantasy points in the second half. Cade had a really big fourth quarter, so that helped a little bit. And then Porzingis lost minutes due to blowout. And then my one regret, playing Jalen Tyson in this lineup. Um, I had another lineup that was pretty similar. It just had Giannis. It had VJ. It had Zion. It had Kalkbrenner. It had PJ. It had who else was in the lineup? Oh, I played Joel Embiid in it. Just lying about. I thought he'd be on like a 28, around 28 to 30 minutes, which I thought at like 10% ownership was a really good play. But yeah, lucky to like slightly break even yesterday. All right, we have a 7 game main slate here. I have all the rotations up, so we'll take a peek at the rotations while we go over the slate as well. I feel like this helps me personally in the videos too, to kind of digest what the teams did this early in the season, so that's nice. Um, so yeah, and let me know if there's any problems with my mic. Someone said that my voice was sounding a little bit weird on Reddit. I don't know if that was just a jab at my voice in real life or if like my microphone's bad. But let me know, please. I thought that was pretty odd. All right, first game of the night, we have Atlanta at Orlando here. One of the worst spots here for Atlanta. But the good thing is they ran a pretty nice rotation to start the game. And then I believe Risher got hurt. He's questionable for tomorrow. If he's out, Luke Kennard's going to get the bump there. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think anyone got into foul trouble. Like Trae Young, 34 minutes, got pulled in a blowout. Porzingis was on pace for 30. Jalen Johnson was on pace for massive minutes. And then they're kind of just going to mix in the rest. Dyson got into foul trouble, I believe. Yeah, 2 quick ones early. Then picked up his third there. So he would have played a ton as well. And then what else? Luke Kennard got extended because of the foul trouble and injury to, I believe Risher got hurt. But if Risher's out, Luke Kennard's going to benefit the most. They could go more double big with Onyeka Okongwu as well, potentially. Keaton Wallace left the game with like a teeth in. He like lost his tooth or something. I'm not entirely sure. But he came back. And yeah, that's the main rotation stuff here for Atlanta. Now we have a really tough spot here going up against Orlando. I wouldn't say really anyone here is a must for me. I think if I were playing anyone, I think Kristaps Porzingis and Jalen Johnson are probably my 2 favorite plays once again, same as last slate. Price point came down, I believe, on Jalen Johnson. I thought it was like 8,900 last slate, so that's good to see. Stat sheet stuffer. He's going to do quite a bit of ball handling. I don't know how many assists he actually did end with, but I know last season he was handling the ball a lot. Yeah, almost a triple-double. Triple-double there for Jalen. So he, at his price point, I think at least looks good. This is just not a good spot. And Porzingis looks good to me. And if you always want to go to like Trae Young, I think that's okay. I think there's personally rather some other spend ups I'd rather go to, but I'm not going to argue. Like if you showed up with Trae Young tomorrow in single entry, I'm not gonna hate you for it. Then keep an eye on Zachary News. If he's out, it's gonna be bumps. Like we could have like Luke Kennard as a potential value. Maybe Nikhil, he gets a bump, and then maybe you see a little bit more on Onyeka Okongwu, but I don't know if I'm gonna go there at 6.6K. All right, let's move on to Orlando. We go from a bad spot to a pretty good spot. Atlanta did get better defensively, though, this year. But I still feel as though there'll be a spot we definitely want to target. All right, Jalen Suggs is back. Good to see there. He will be on a limit. He was on a heavy limit yesterday. I would expect that to continue. Tyus Jones played 23 minutes. I think that's a little bit interesting. Anthony Black as well. And then the main guys just played a lot. Wendell Jr., his role is going to be pretty secure. I would continue to see probably around 30 minutes every single night. Did get in foul trouble early. He lost minutes. He was actually on pace for more. All right, I love Paolo at 8.5K. I don't know. Like, I feel like people just hate playing these Orlando Magic players. Now you have Desmond Bane into the mix, so I feel like people are going to hate playing them even more. We'll have to see, but I love that price point at 8.5K going up against Atlanta. So sign me up for that. I think he's a really good play. I do want to see what each player ended up with. I believe Bane had the big game. Actually, they all had pretty good games. Bane had the worst. I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know. This isn't. That's preseason. What am I doing? Here we go. Sorry. So it was Bane who had a good game. Franz had a good game. Paolo, they all had good games. Wendell Jr. a little bit underwhelming. So yeah, I think all three of the main guys look pretty good to me. I'm not going to play Jalen Suggs at 5.7K, and I do like Wendell Jr. for value. He was on pace for low 30s minutes. That was not the case last season, so if we're going to continue to get low 30s minutes from Wendell Jr., a little bit under a point per minute, I think that's going to grade out as a pretty good value to me. And if you think Jalen Suggs is going to continue to be limited at that like 15-minute range, I definitely think you could look to a Tyus Jones in large field tournaments tomorrow, but he was really bad in the opener for this team. So recapping, I'm really high on Paolo. I think Franz and Bane are good plays. I can't play Suggs. Like Wendell Jr. if we're going to continue to see low 30s minutes there. And Tyus Jones is playable if you think they're going to continue to limit Suggs that much, which they should. All right, moving on to Boston. They are playing New York. Now, they're in a really tough spot, but starters were what were projected here. Hauser, Brown, Pritchard, White, Keta. Keta played 25. Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, huge minutes. Jaylen Brown, huge minutes. Sam Hauser, only 22, which should be expected when you have Simons coming off of the bench. All right, yeah, tough spot, but with no Tatum, there's a ton of usage to go around. We can take a look at the box scores here for Game 1 that they played up against my Sixers. We saw Derek White have the big game. I think Derek White could win Most Improved Player this year. I don't know what his odds are. Jaylen Brown had a nice game. Peyton Pritchard struggled early. Simons was okay off the bench, shot the ball horribly. And that's about it. So, yeah, I mean, similar to like last year when we were jamming Jaylen Brown with no Tatum and Derek White and stuff. Now they're priced up a little bit. But I still think they're good plays. I think in a vacuum, I'd rather play Paolo Banchero, but I think Jaylen Brown's a good play. His ball handling role goes up. But that's going to be mainly the guy that gets the biggest boost ball handling wise is Derek White. But I like both. I think they're both going to be unowned in tournaments. I think Pritchard's playable. He would be my least favorite other three. Simons, if he continues to get 30 minutes off the bench, which I would expect to continue happening, would only be a large field tournament play for me. He's not going to like project absolutely amazing. And then Cat, if you want to go there, tough spot here. That could change with Cat being questionable on the other side. I'm not going to play Hauser. Not going to play Tillman. I think it's mainly the top guys that I'm a little bit interested, or definitely interested in for Boston with no Tatum. All right, we can close that. The next game we have is the New York Knicks, and we have Karl Anthony Towns questionable, Josh Hart questionable, OG Anunoby is probable. The starters, actually surprise starter they went with was Ariel Hukporti here. What am I missing? Mikal, OG, Cat Brunson. Oh yeah. That's what I was missing. Excuse me, Mitchell Robinson being out. And they started Hukporti. He only played 17 minutes, basically a spot start. Got the most minutes off the bench, Miles McBride, pretty expected there. Yabu only 12 minutes, which is unfortunate. So if everyone's in here, this is actually going to be a plus matchup. This isn't the same Boston team from last year, so I think everyone here is actually in a pretty fine spot. So Cat 8.7K I think is a little bit too cheap. Once again, has the nice power forward center eligibility. Jalen Brunson, if we get Cat out, would instantly shoot up as a great play at 8.4K, would just be wildly too cheap. Josh Hart, he's going to have a splint on his shooting hand, and he's dealing with back spasms, so I would expect a limit if he is going to be playing in this game, so I'm not going to play him, especially coming off the bench. And we saw massive games here for OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges. I believe both broke the slate. I know one of them went for almost 60 fantasy points. I'm not going to overreact to that, but I do think the price points are nice. Very relative safe plays. Both ended OG 37 minutes and Mikal 33. Not anyone I'm running to roster between the guys, but I think they're perfectly fine. Then I didn't mind Jordan Clarkson, but he only surprisingly played 13 minutes, which was not good to see. And then Miles McBride is a solid value of 4.1K, assuming Josh Hart is not going to be able to go in this one. And yeah, if we get Cat out, Love Brunson, OG Mikal, they're really good plays. Miles McBride would be great. Yabu would be great. And then I guess you could consider Huck Porty. All right, Cleveland at Brooklyn. Darius Garland is going to remain out. Comments Tuesday. Stillman undergoing toe surgery in June. Looks like he's going to be out. Hopefully I didn't miss any news. I think he's out for a little bit. Max Strus out. Are these updates from September? Jesus. Yeah, 3 to 4 months. So they're going to both be out once again. DeAndre Hunter is questionable. He missed the game yesterday. All right, starters were Sam Merrill, Jalen Tyson, Jared Allen, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley. So if Hunter is back, I would assume he moves back into the starting lineup for Jalen Tyson. I'm not going to be too interested in Hunter. We'll see if he's going to be on some type of limit. If he is in at 5.6K. Yeah, I mean, if the Brooklyn Nets can keep this somewhat close, I mean, I don't think anyone's going to be able to stop Evan Mobley, Donovan Mitchell. I mean, if you look at the Brooklyn rotation, just look what they did. Just absolutely disgusting. They played all these, just the worst rotation I think I've ever seen in my entire life. So they should dominate if this game is somewhat competitive. Jared Allen is in a good spot as well. I believe he had an underwhelming game. Yeah, only 4 for 4 with one. There's the Donovan Mitchell show the second half. Sam Merrill had a nice game in 28 minutes as well. And Evan Mobley had a good game. I think they're going to probably continue their success here. So really interested in the top two guys. Jared Allen's fine. I think he's a little bit too cheap normally for his production. We're just going to have to see if that production's going to be there. And yeah, if like Hunter's out, you can absolutely look like Sam Merrill, Jalen Tyson. Now Jalen Tyson, if he's going to be chalky once again, I'm just going to fade. And then Dean Wade had a nice game off the bench as well as Lonzo Ball. Brooklyn, I'm not playing anyone. This rotation was the worst rotation I think I've ever seen in my life. We can just go right through that. Moving on to Detroit, tough matchup here going up against Houston. For this team, a lot of guys got into foul trouble. We saw Duren pick up 2 quick ones. Ozzer got into a little bit of foul trouble. Duncan played a ton of minutes, and then you saw Ron Holland play a decent amount of minutes off the bench. And we do have Marcus Sasser, doubtful. So you should see Duncan play a lot once again, and then Ron Holland play a decent amount off the bench. And Karis LeVert will mix in as well. I don't believe he got into any foul trouble. He doesn't really get into foul trouble. No. All right, yeah. So Stewart game minutes, obviously due to the Duren foul trouble. Not a good spot here. But Cade's Cade. I think he's going to be probably one of the better fantasy producers on the year. I have no issue playing him either. I think my favorite spend up on the slate is probably Victor Wembanyama, but Cade's definitely up there. Duren back to his normal 2 quick ones, more of a tournament-only play for me. And I have interest in Ozzer at 6.5K just because the minutes are going to be there. He was on pace for low to mid-30s minutes. Good producer. I think he's going to take a big step up this year, so I have interest there. And I think Tobias Harris is a little bit too cheap at 5.8K. Probably be very low on tomorrow. I just don't love the spots here. But I definitely have interest in Tobias Harris at that price point. So like Tobias, like Ozzer in large field tournaments, probably be unowned tomorrow. I think Cade's a good spend up. Stewart's priced right. And then Duncan had a Tony Snell performance, but played big minutes. With no Marcus Sasser, should continue to play big minutes. I think if you want to go there, it's okay. He certainly has a ceiling, and he'll probably see some good looks from 3. All right, moving on to the Houston side. Normal starters, Adams, Durant, Amen, Jabari, Sengun, and then we saw Reed Shepherd play close to 30 minutes off the bench, but that was mainly in double overtime. Amen got hurt, and then we saw a bit of a Koji and Tari Eason. Amen? No update on Amen. Okay, yeah. Yeah, my call on Sengun was phenomenal on the first slate, and once again, if I'm playing any of the top guys, I think it's Sengun. I think the role is just too good. He's stuffing the stat sheet. He's doing a ton of ball handling, and my take on Kevin Durant being a lot more scoring dependent in this lineup held very, very true. Game one, and I think that's going to be the case. I think his floor is going to be a lot lower this year, playing alongside Amen and Sengun, where it's a lot more harder to come by rebounds. He's not going to have the ball in his hands as a distributor as much. So you got to be careful there with Kevin Durant. The floor is just going to be a lot lower there. So I really like Sengun as a spend up. I really like Amen. I'm fine going right back to Jabari Smith at 5.5K. And I like Steven Adams. He played a ton, man. Solid producer for the price point at 4.3K. And if we're going to continue to see that many minutes, like 25 to 30, he played a lot more than that. But if we're going to see that range, I do think he's a pretty good value. So I'm definitely into these Rockets tomorrow, going up against Detroit. Going to be should be a fun game to watch, actually. All right, moving on to the Miami side of things. How about Davion Mitchell, man? How about him, dude? Wiggins, Jovic, Davion, Powell, Bam Adebayo going up against Memphis. Yeah, I mean, he had the one big game, and now he's $6,000. So now we don't have to have a massive giga chalk play on the slate. So that's fun. Yeah, I wanted to take a look at the box score, actually. Wiggins, 32. Bam, 34. Norm Powell, 36. Davion, 35. And then Jamie, 30 off the bench. Yeah, Davion is what we have to talk about from game one. Now, it's going to be hard for me to get there personally at $6,000, but what a game from him. I like Andrew Wiggins at 5.8K. I think that's too cheap. And then Norm Powell, Bam Adebayo, of course, have the probably the highest ceilings on the team. I think I prefer Bam in a vacuum. Don't mind the spot either. Has double-double upside. Going to play a ton of minutes. Him, Norm Powell, going to be the wombo combo 1-2 on offense. And then Jovic, I think, is solid. We don't have too much value. So I don't mind Jovic there for value. All right, moving on to the Memphis Grizzlies. We could have some value opening up here. John Morant is questionable, but I think it's a little bit precautionary. I think he's probably going to be playing in this game. We still have Jerome out, Eddie out, Pippen out, KCP questionable, Brandon Clark out, Vince Williams out. Starting lineup: Jaren, Ja, Jalen Wells, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Jock, Landale. And then we see Aldama off the bench, Javon Small off the bench, Cedric Coward off of the bench. So if KCP's out, fire up Cedric Coward at 3.7K. I think he's in play regardless. If John Morant somehow out, fire up Javon Small. Then we're firing up Jaren Jackson Jr. Santi Aldama's going to get a bump. Jalen Wells will look really good. I still like Jock Landale regardless for value. How much did Cam Spencer play? Not nearly, only 12 minutes, but he would have to play a lot more. He'd be firmly in play. You'd have to probably play a decent amount of Memphis tomorrow if these guys are out. This team would look fantastic. Now, if John Morant is in, played high 20s, I want to say, 28 minutes. One foul, no fouls. So high 20s minutes with no foul trouble. If they're going to up his minutes to like that low 30s minutes range, I think his price is way too cheap. I think his role is just going to be absolutely absurd this year with no Desmond Bane, especially the ball handling role. So if we get news he's going to play low to mid 30s minutes, I would absolutely love Ja. I think Jaren's pretty sharp in tournaments. Aldama's overpriced. Jalen Wells you can get to. Fine spot for him. Typically in years past, 3-point shooting up against Miami was pretty good. And then, Jock Landale, I think, solid for value. Cedric Coward, you could absolutely go to at 3.7K, and I think Javon Small is playable, more so in a large field tournament-only setting. And then we get to probably my favorite game to target on the slate, and I think it's going to be a lot of people's favorite games to target, and that's the Spurs. I mean, Wemby, my God, absolutely phenomenal. Best spend up on the slate. It's not close to me. I'm going to be probably playing Victor Wembanyama tomorrow. I absolutely love him. Champ's playable at 4.3K. I like Castle at 6.8K. His ball handling role is way up. from last year. Devin Vassell got the start. He played 30 minutes in a blowout. Looks like we're just going to get a much tighter rotation than years previous. So I like all of these guys outside of Harrison Barnes. Yeah, really like this game, especially Victor Wembanyama. I like the other side of this game. I think what's his price? 9.3K. Where is minutes here? 33 for Zion. Only played a little bit in the first half. Played more in the second half. A little bit concerning about the rotation, but I still love these guys. Love Zion Williamson. I really like Trey Murphy. What else do we have? Herb Jones is going to play a ton. They need him out there for defense at 5.9K. Missy questionable as well. That could open up more value. Sadiq Bey played 29 minutes off of the bench. I actually think he's a good value if they didn't price him up. Where is he? 4.1K. I feel like he's going to be somewhat popular tomorrow. And yeah, we could get elite value if Missy were to somehow miss. We'll have to see what they do with the starting lineup, potentially. All right, last game of the night, guys. Washington at Dallas. And then, yeah, I think I projected these minutes pretty well with C.J. McCollum and Chris Middleton playing close to 30 minutes, and that would have been the case without the blowout. So if we're going to continue to get over 30 minutes from these guys, I really like both of them. C.J. McCollum, Chris Middleton. Really, really like both of them. Nobody wanted to play them lastly, and they both nuked. So I'm very, very high on both of them. I think Bub you can get to. Keyshawn George is fine, but I think the main targets here for me are going to be C.J. McCollum and Chris Middleton. I really, really like both of them. I believe Cam Whitmore had a good game off of the bench. He played 19 minutes. Trey Johnson, 26. And then Dallas, finally, what a disaster from them. 80, Flag, PJ, Derek Lively, Klay Thompson. PJ Washington picked up 2 fouls early. That's why Najee Marshall got extended a little bit. And then you saw D'Lo mainly off of the bench. So yeah, I think 80 is probably one of my favorite spin-ups on the slate. I think Cooper Flag is phenomenal at 7.1K. I know he had a really bad first game, but I really like him as a bounce-back candidate here going up against the Wizards. PJ Washington is still way too cheap at $5,000, so I'm really high on him once again. Derek Lively, I mean, they're just not going to play him, I guess. I don't know. Just strictly a tournament only play for me. But if I knew he got, low 20s minutes, I'd really like him. And I think Najee Marshall is perfectly okay for value. Probably pick up ownership tomorrow as well because we don't have value right now. All right, guys, that's going to do it for the slate. I hope you guys had a great night, and I will talk to y'all in the next video.